Hi students, you all are enjoying and listening the videos. Today again I am back with the new lesson. Standard 4th, Subject English, lesson number 13, Sultan Ghiyasuddin in the Qazi's court. Students, open your Balbardi textbook, page number 28. Let us start the first paragraph of the lesson. Listen properly. Hundreds of years ago, in the eastern province of Bengal, Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah ruled the land. His capital was Sonargaon. Sultan Ghiyasuddin was a good ruler. He ruled wisely and well. He respected men of learning. He had a deep regard for law. My dear children, in this paragraph, we understand that hundreds of years ago, in a place that is in Bengal, and especially in the eastern province of Bengal, there lived a sultan. His name was Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah, and he ruled the land. He ruled that place. The capital of that place was Sonargaon, and this sultan was a very good ruler and also a wise man, and he respected people who were learned, and he also great regard for law. That is, he would love to follow the rules. Now move to the second para. One day, while the Sultan was practicing with his bow and arrows, he accidentally wounded the only son of a poor widow. The wounded boy did not survive. Weeping and wailing, the poor widow went to the Qazi and told him what had happened. Here, students, what is the meaning of this second para? What you understood? Here, when Sultan was practicing with his bow and arrow, what happened? Yes, accidentally means without any intention, by mistake, he wounded the boy. Now, who was the boy? Yes, he was the only son of a poor widow. And the Sultan by mistake hurt the son of this poor widow, and he was wounded and he got hurt and he did not survive. Here survive means he did not live. He died in that accident. He lost his life. Now, when this happened, the poor widow started weeping and wailing. What is the meaning of the word wailing? Wailing means to cry loudly for a long time. And the poor widow went to the Qazi and told him all that had happened. Now, moving to the third paragraph. The Qazi was an honest and upright man. He sent an officer to summon the Sultan to his court. When the officer reached the palace, the guards stopped him and inquired about his business. When they learned that he had come to serve a summons on the Sultan, they were shocked. They refused to let him go inside the palace. So, in this paragraph, we come to know the Qazi was very honest and just a man. And he sent one of his officers to summon the Sultan to his court. Here, summon means to order someone to come. And the officer reached the palace, but the guards did not allow him to get inside. And they started asking him, "For what you had come over here?" They inquired about it, and when they understood that he had brought the summons, that means a written notice ordering someone to appear in court, and it was against the Sultan. They did not allow him to go inside the palace. Next, the officer was now in a fix. The guards did not allow him to enter the palace, but he knew that he could not return without serving the summons. The Qazi would not take him back. He had to find a way of reaching the Sultan somehow. What could he do? He thought and thought. Here, the officer was in a fix, means in a difficulty. How will enter in the palace? The guards are not allowing him to enter, and without entering and giving the summons to the Sultan and returning back. That way, the Qazi would not taken back in the court. So he started thinking how to go inside and how to submit the summon to the Sultan. He was thinking and thinking. Next para. At last he began to sound the Azan, the call for the prayer, loudly just outside the palace. It was not yet time for the prayer. When the Sultan heard the loud, untimely call, he was greatly surprised. He ordered that the man giving the call should be brought before him immediately. Now what happened? The officer thought and he came up with the plan. He started the sound of Azan. Here Azan means it's a call for prayer, and he made of noise standing outside the palace, and it was not the time for prayer. So the Sultan heard this loud noise and said, "It is not the time for Azan, and who is making this loud noise?" And he was surprised, and he ordered the guards, "Go and bring this person, whoever he is, immediately inside." Let's see the next paragraphs. His soldiers rushed out of the palace gates, caught the officer, and took him to the Sultan within moments. When the officer knelt before the Sultan, he was trembling with fear, but he mustered all his courage and explained why he had given the call for Azan. Then, with shaking hands, he gave the summons to the Sultan. Sultan Ghiyasuddin took it without making any comment. He read the summons and told the officer to go back to the Qazi. He announced that he would appear in the Qazi's court the next day. In this paragraph, the Sultan ordered the soldiers to rush and get him inside. He got a chance to get inside. When he reached in front of the Sultan, he knelt in front of the Sultan. He was trembling. Trembling means shivering with fear. But he took courage and explained to Sultan why he had given the call for Azan. And with shaking hands, he gave summons to the Sultan. Sultan took it and read summons and told the officer to go back to Qazi, and he announced that he would appear in the Qazi's court the next day. Next paragraph. The next morning, the Sultan got ready to appear before the Qazi. He hid a sharp sword in his robe and set out. The courtroom was packed with people. Everyone was eager to see what would happen. The Qazi entered and took his place on the high seat of honor. In a little while, Sultan Ghiyasuddin entered the courtroom. Everyone stood up to show respect to the Sultan, But the Qazi did not get up. The Sultan stood in the docks and the trial began. The widow presented her complaint. The Qazi took note of all the evidence and in a grave voice addressed the Sultan. Next morning, Sultan is there at the court and he had a sharp sword he hidden in his robe. There, the room was packed with people. Everybody was eager to see what is going to happen. Qazi entered and took the seat of honor. When Sultan entered, everyone stood up, but Qazi did not get up. The Sultan stood in the docks. Here, docks means is a place where it is an enclosed place where the person who has committed some mistakes stands in front of the Qazi. Now the trial began. When the trial began, what happened? The widow explained everything to Qazi against Sultan. Qazi was took note everything in writing. Now widow presented her complaints. Qazi addressed the Sultan in a grave voice. Next, you are guilty of causing the death of the only son of this poor widow. According to the law, you must pay a fine for this offense. I order you to do that without delay. The Sultan accepted the judgment and apologized to the widow. He arranged to pay the fine immediately. The widow felt satisfied that the offense was brought home to the offender. So, here the Sultan accepted his mistakes. By mistake or accidentally, he had killed the poor widow's son. And the Qazi told him, you have to pay the fine to the lady widow at the earliest, and the Sultan also apologized to the widow and he paid the fine immediately. Now the widow was feeling satisfied that her son could not come back. At least the fine what she had got, with that she would leave. Moving to the next paragraph. When the case was over, the Qazi got up from his high seat of honor. Respectfully, he bowed to the Sultan and requested him to take his seat. The Sultan then drew the hidden sword from his robes and told the Qazi, I am happy that you did not waver in your duty. You did not hesitate to punish me. Otherwise, I would have beheaded you with this sword. The Qazi then put his hand under the cushion where the Sultan was seated and brought out a whip. He said, Your Majesty, I am happy because you obeyed the law. Otherwise, I would have whipped you in this court. The Sultan then got up and embraced the Qazi. Thank God we both did our duty, he said. Everyone present in the courtroom praised the two great men. When the case was over, Qazi got up from his seat and respectfully he requested to Sultan to take his high seat of honor. Sultan was happy that the Qazi did the right judgment, the crime what he had done. Then Sultan told, if you would not taken the proper decision, then I would have beheaded you with this sword. It was hidden in his robes. Here the Qazi had also hid a whip under the cushion where he was seated. And he said, if you were not ready to pay the fine or disobeyed the law, I would have whipped you in this court in front of everyone. So Sultan got up and embraced. Here embraced means hugged Qazi, and he thanked God. We both had done our duty very well. Because of our right decision, the poor widow had got justice. Everyone was praising both for the great work they had done. My dear children, from this story we understand that whether we are big or small, we should ready to accept our mistakes, and whatever duties are allotted to us, we should be able to fulfill it. I hope you all understood and enjoyed this story. Thank you.